At Big Bet Poker hits me up, I answer the call. I flew out to Las Vegas for a 2-day stint. First day here at Big Bet, the next one is a celebrity invitational poker tournament. We left Michigan and bought into this $25.50 game for $14,810. I had some cash on me, I had some chips from the Aria, switched them over to Trop chips, and we find ourselves in this first hand coming in for a 3-bet out of the small blind with ace-10 of hearts. Andrew P. opened it up and decides to call with the 8-6 offsuit. Can't blame the guy. We're in Vegas. It's time to gamble. And we see a pretty good flop, which comes Jack 5-4 with 2 hearts. I'm out of position to Andrew, and I think I like a C-bet in this spot. Half pot seems appropriate, and I go for $750 into the middle. Now, Andrew obviously has all options available to him. Some of them are better than others, and he decides that putting in the call here with his gutter to the straight is the best move. Puts in the call, and we see a top pair card for us, the ace of spades, and the action's on me. After a quick shout out to the GOAT Mudkip, we're in an interesting spot here. We have top pair in the nut flush draw. Do we check and kind of say we have a hand like Queen Jack or King Jack, giving Andrew the rope to go for a bluff? Or do we just bet for value here? And if we do bet, I think I like a small sizing. I decided that I'm trying to win a lot of money tonight, and I want to build the size of the pot. $3,200 in the middle, and I bet out for $1,100. I'm not scared, obviously, of any heart on the river. I have top pair, and I think a lot of his hands like 6, 7, Queen Jack, Jack 10 aren't going to fold for one more small bet. So I like my sizing there. Unfortunately, Andrew has nothing and folds his cards. Oh, did I mention there's some vlogger on vlogger action here? Johnny Vibes raises it up to 150 from the hijack. I find myself in the small blind once again and come in for a 3-bet. I decide to 4x his sizing, make it $600 to go, and he decides to defend with pocket 3s. We are going heads up. Out of position to a flop, which comes decent for us. King, king, 9, bang! We flop 3 of a kind.
Boy, did Wolfgang just demolish this flop.
Now in this spot with trips here, do you go for a big bet, a small bet, or check it over to Johnny? I decided that I'm going to have more of the strong kings in my range, so I should go for a bet. I don't want to go too large and keep all of his pocket pairs in there, so I bet out for $300. Maybe could have gone a little bit larger. It's kind of a funny bet. Johnny calls with his pocket 3s, and the 5 of spades peels off on the turn. I look over at Johnny, and he is staring me down, mean mugging. That's how he has found success on the felt and in the YouTube streets. He is a focused man here on this 2550 live stream. My nickname in high school was Smiley. I can't stop smiling when put in a spot. And I show it here. I laugh in a big situation, end up chatting with Johnny for a little bit, and then decide to check it over to him. I'm checking here because a lot of my hands would do so, like 10s and jacks, ace queen suited, ace jack suited would all check. So I think throwing a strong hand like king queen offsuit into that checking range can't be a bad idea. He doesn't have a great hand and decides to check behind, bringing in the 6 of clubs on the river. Now with my entire range, what would I do on this river? If I have some ace highs like ace queen and ace jack, those probably aren't good against hands like pocket 7s, 8s, 3s, 4s, so I probably should go for a bet. Likewise, if I have any kings in my range here, which I do, also want to go for a big bet. The only hands that probably don't want to go too large are queens and jacks and 10s. But yeah, I don't even think it's really bad to throw those into my big bet frequency here on the river. No pun to the name of this stream. And I decided to go for a nearly pot-sized bet of 1750. This is what we call a polarizing bet. Polarizing meaning I'm going large, so I either have a lot of bluffs or a lot of strong hands. In this spot, I do have a strong hand, thank goodness. But unfortunately, Johnny sniffs it out and mucks his cards, but he did think about it for a little while, so I think if he had slightly better of a hand, he might have put in that call and we would have got paid off. Moving right along, we find ourselves in the middle of a bomb pot. It is a single board, no limit hold'em bomb pot. We each put in 150, go off to a flop, and we flop ourselves middle pair with queen 3 of diamonds. I start with a check, and the action checks around, giving me 2 pair on the 3 of clubs. I think we have an interesting spot between betting out into the field or checking and going for a check raise. I decide to go for option B, which is go for a check raise. I think a lot of people are going to bet here with Jack 10, Ace Jack, Ace 10 suited, a lot of club draws, and maybe hands like 5-3, etc. So I start with a check. Michael decides to bet out here with his just ace high and a gutter to the straight. Action folds around to Jackie, who does have one of those hands, 5-3 offsuit. Interesting spot here. He's not just going to call the 450. He bumps it up north of that to $1,500. And now the action's on me in the small blind. Obviously, ranges are uncapped, which means anyone could have anything. Pocket fives, pocket threes, queens, kings, king, queen, king five are all on the table, and all of those hands have me beat. There are some hands that might bluff here, like ace five of clubs, maybe a hand like four deuce or 4-6, but not many of those, maybe jack 10 as well. Interesting spot for me. I could be crushed here. I could be way ahead. Fortunately for me, I do have 84% in this hand, and I do decide to put in the call. But all this blabber here by me is just letting you know this isn't a slam dunk call with two pair when you see a bet and a raise in a bomb pot situation. So yeah, I do put in the call here. Luckily, I decided to do that. And Michael gets out of the way. We are going heads up with Jackie to the river. I'm out of position, so not exactly the best spot. And we see an interesting river card, which connects a lot of things. It comes the 4 of clubs. Didn't want to see that, although I think if anyone was to have a flush draw, it was the other opponent in the hand, not Jackie. I think Jackie's weighted towards more strong hands. So I decided to go for a small blocker bet here of $500. I don't want to see a raise, but if I do, I can confidently fold my hand. But also in case he does have a worse two pair or even a one pair type of hand like ace king or ace queen, I might get a little bit more value. He checks his cards once again and snap calls. I turn over my two pair, and we got maximum value here versus 5-3 offsuit on a 3 club and a straightish board. Look at that $5,500 pot coming over my way. Ship it over to me, dealer. Things are going pretty swimmingly so far. We're up around $3,000 on the session, and we find ourselves in this next hand with 10-8 of diamonds. I raise it up from the hijack, and Andrew puts in the call from the straddle. We're going off to a flop, which smashes my range. It comes ace queen 5 with 2 hearts. On boards that favor your range over the opponent, you want to go for a c-bet. I decided to bet out for $300. Andrew has a gutter here. He probably should just fold, but he decides to put in the call, bringing in the 9 of hearts on the turn, and he checks it over to me once again. Now, when the hearts come in on the turn, he could have a flush, but I think we're pretty much going to be balanced between myself and him having flushes, so not exactly the worst card in the world. We're still going to have aces and queens. He can't really have those. Ace-queen is pretty balanced. I'm interested to see what I do in this spot. I do decide to go for a bet. Probably the best decision to do that, as I'll have more strong hands than him, and I want to charge him. I'm also going to have a lot of the king of hearts and jack of hearts and ace of hearts in my hand. I go for $750, and Andrew, look at that. He's putting in the call here with his king high, sticky player here, and it's going to be a good situation for me if he bricks off on the river. I'm going to go for another bet and take this pot down. So that $750 that he's putting in the middle is almost assuredly coming my way. The 7 of spades is a perfect card for me to go blasto on the river. Still going to have all those strong hands like aces, queens, and ace queen. Andrew, check it over to me. I'm going to go for a bet, and you can just easily get out of this hand and fold.
And Andrew going to lead here, bluffing with the best hand.
What's this? No, he doesn't check it over to me. Now he decides to lead out into me for $1,500, and it's kind of a weird line. You would think if he had a flush, he might have raised the turn. Would he just call the turn with a small flush and then lead out on the river? I don't know, that seems a little bit scary. What if I had the king or ace of hearts in my hand and another heart comes? His hand is really vulnerable, so a lot of heart draws are out of the question. Could he have some two pairs? Does the 7 ever change anything? Like, he can't have pocket 7s when he calls me on the flop and the turn, right? This is definitely a weird line. Not exactly sure what to make of it. At the end of the day, I couldn't go with my read and put in a raise. I would have had to make it like $5,000 to go. And with 10-8 suited here, I couldn't get it done. I fold my cards. And yeah, I'm seeing this for the first time now. He had king high. Nice play by you, Andrew. But in the long run, just check it over to me. I'll go for a bet, and you can get out of the way. After getting completely owned by Andrew in that last hand, our stack is around 1,000 north of what we bought in for. Still a profit, but I would have loved to take that last one down. I looked down at ace-queen suited from the cutoff, raise it up to 150. Pizza Tony from the dealer, putting in the call with the beautiful king-9 offsuit, and Michael putting in the call from the big blind as well. We see a flop which comes king 10-8 with 2 spades, and in between 2 opponents I always start with a check. I do have a backdoor heart draw and a gutter to Broadway. Pizza Tony surprisingly checks behind here in position with his pair of kings, bringing in a good card for me to bet on, the 3 of hearts, giving the nut flush draw along with my Broadway draw as well. Michael checks it over to me for a second time with his 9 high, and now I decide to go for a bet of $350. I could get some pocket pairs to fold, like 4s, 5s, 6s, and 7s. Would be a huge win. Even if someone folded a hand like 8-9 or 8-7, that would be a huge win as well. Unfortunately for me though, Pizza Tony has played this hand to perfection. He checks behind on the flop. He's going to call my bet here on the turn. And yeah, regardless of what happens on the river, I'm going to bet out big. The river comes the 6 of clubs, so we break off, but I have to continue with the plan of saying I have a hand like king 10, king queen, ace king, pocket 10s, all that good stuff. There's $1,200 in the middle to fight for, and I decided to go for a sizing of $750, around 2/3 the size of the pot. I think Tony here is going to have a lot of flush draws, a lot of straight draws, a lot of weak 1 pair. You can see he goes into the tank here with his king. So if he's thinking about folding a king, he's going to fold a lot of those other hands as well. Unfortunately for me though, Pizza Tony, good player, puts in the call, and he's going to scoop in that nearly 3K pot. And yeah, now we are stuck $300 on the session. Time to get to work.
Top of the winnings. Michael and Andrew very close behind.
Johnny Vibe somehow just completely
Completely
even.
zero.
That
Completely
is rare.
break even.
And he's been here since the start of the game, so that's always crazy.
If you guys are enjoying this video so far from Las Vegas, be sure to hit the like and subscribe button. It helps out the channel a ton. Alright, Michael raises it up from +1 with ace-queen suited. Jackie puts in the call from the button. I find myself in the small blind. I could be 3-betting to a sizing of around 14 to 1500, or I could just put in the call with pocket 5s, look to spike a 5, and proceed from there. I decided to put in the call. We're going 3 ways to the flop, which comes 8 deuce 3 with 2 clubs. Out of position against 2 opponents, easy board to go for a check on. And Michael decides this isn't a great board to go for a c-bet on and checks it over to Jackie. Now Jackie has nothing but 2 overcards, but don't tell him that. When it goes check check over to him, he's going to come in for a bet of 425. And the action's over to me. I have a pair on this board. A pair is pretty hard to make. Sure, Jackie could have a hand like 8-9 or 7-8. He'd also have some straight draws or flush draws. So I got to put in the call one time here. I think I might be ahead a large portion, which I am. I put in the 425, shuffle my chips, and we are off to the turn, which comes the 9 of diamonds, because of course it does. Jackie just gets bailed out for his bet there on the flop with around 20% equity and gets there on the turn, almost sealing my fate here. He has a 95% chance to win this. When I check it over to him, he goes for a bet of 1200, and now we have a pretty easy fold. Of course, he still could have some of those club draws, but when he goes bet here into 2 players, I think I need to get out of the way with my pocket 5s. That's what I decided to do. I call when I'm ahead, I fold when I'm behind. We're playing some pretty good poker tonight. Alright, pocket pair did not work out for me in the last one, so why don't we get some retribution here with pocket deuces. I put in the call here from the hijack. Pizza Tony wants to come in there with the 6-4 suited. And look at that, Brock Lesnar with the ace-queen offsuit from the dealer button. He's going to come in for a raise, bumps it up to $500. Now, in a normal game, pocket deuces, probably just a fold. But this isn't a normal game. We're on TV. We're sitting very deep. So if we hit a deuce on like an ace-5 deuce board, man, we are going to be cooking. So I decided to put in the call. Does Tony come in with his 6-4 suited? Nope, he doesn't, but no worries. We see a flop which comes jack-4 deuce, bang, we flop bottom set. Unfortunately, it wasn't ace-4 deuce or queen-4 deuce. I do start with a check. Let's see if Brock decides to go for a c-bet on this board. He does not. He checks behind, bringing in an action card, the 10 of hearts. He's going to have a lot of king, queen. He's going to have a lot of strong hearts in his range. So I think I like going for a bet in my shoes. A lot of cards on the river that I would be scared of. Want to get some value and protection here, and I decide to bet out for $800. Brock finds the snap fold there with his ace queen, and we're taking it down there. Although I feel like I could have got a little bit more meat on that bone. Gotta put our head down, gotta keep grinding. I look down at ace-king offsuit from the hijack. I raise it up to 300 over a straddle. And we are going to get some action here from Andrew P. The 7 deuce game is on. He puts in the call instead of going for the 3-bet, so interesting line from him. He probably has some devious intentions on some flops and turns, and sure enough, he shows his cards right away when he goes in for a bet of $300. His plan was to call me pre and then bet out on the flop. He's representing a flush draw, an ace, or a 3. Unfortunately for him, though, I did connect with his board being top pair, so I put in the call. Pretty easy decision there, and we see the 8 of clubs on the turn. Andrew's not going to slow down here. He decides to bet out for $800 now, and now it's getting a little bit hairy. Does he have a hand like ace-jack or ace-queen? Does he have a hand like 3-4, 3-deuce, or even ace-3? Or does he just have a naked heart draw? A lot more value here, I think, in his range than bluffs, but I still think my hand is way too good to fold, so I decide to put in the $800 from the hijack, and we see the king of clubs on the river. This king really shouldn't change too much. He's not going to have pocket kings. And even if he had a hand like ace-king that decided not to 3-bet pre, he already had me beat. So definitely not a scare card here. Actions on Andrew, and let's see what he decides to do. He slows down and checks it over to me, wisely putting me on a strong ace. When he checks it over to me, I don't want to get blown off my hand. Sure, it might be a little bit weak to check behind here with 2 pair, but I think he'll be trapping here with a lot of his 3x. He also could be doing it with a better hand like ace-king, and he could have some heart draws that turn it into a bluff, so I don't want to get blown off my hand. I check behind. He says 7-deuce, which is music to my ears. Not only did I win a 3K pot, but I saved everybody $200, and if I would have somehow folded in this one, the person who was last to fold owes the 7-deuce player $300. So yeah, saved myself $300 there, won a 3K pot. Let's freaking go. All right, some small blind, big blind action here. I raise it up to 200 with ace-7 off. Pizza Tony puts in the call with ace-5. I have the better hand, but in a way, he could make a wheel. So you tell me who has the best hand here. But on a board of king 8-8 rainbow, pretty much anyone who puts money in the middle is going to take this one down. I decided to put in the 150, and Pizza Tony does not get out of the way. He puts in the call there with his ace-high. Thinks I might have some queen and jack highs in my range. He's not wrong, but the deuce of spades peels off on the turn. When I get called on the flop, I'm not really expecting him to have worse ace highs. I think he's going to have some 8.
The flower thing.
Mudkip looking fierce.
He's going to have some pocket pairs and, of course, a lot of kings. For those reasons, I decided to check it over to him, but now he goes for a small bet of $125. Sure, he could be doing this with a king or an 8, but I think if he had those hands, he probably would want to build the size of the pot, get some more value in there. So I'm a little bit curious here what this 125 means. I could go for a raise here and find out right away if I'm ahead or not. I think that's a little bit ambitious. I decided just to put in the call. Maybe there are some draws here that he'll be betting, or just smelling weakness. He might be betting off a lot of his queen jack and jack 10. So I put in the call here with my ace high, and we see a good card on the river, the 3 of clubs. Now, what I don't want to happen in this spot is for it to go check, check. The reason why I don't want that is because his small bet here is a lot of bluffs, which I already have beat, like his other ace highs, a lot of his queen high and jack highs, and it's going to be a lot of pocket pairs like pocket 9s, pocket 7s, 6s, 5s, 4s. You get the picture, and I think a lot of those are going to check behind. However, I still have a lot of kings in my range. I will be checking the turn with a lot of them because there are 2 8s on board. So I think betting out here is actually a very interesting play. Trying to get him to fold a hand like pocket 4s, pocket 5s, maybe even a hand like ace deuce suited. I think this bet will work and get a lot of those hands to fold, so it cleans up a lot of equity and lets me win the pot a large portion of the time. I decided to go for $600, around 60% the size of the pot. Little do I know that I did in fact have the best hand. So in this spot, probably better just to go check, check. But against all of his pocket pairs, go for a bet here. Try to get them to fold. He folds his cards. I feel pretty proud of myself thinking he had a pocket pair.
And there you go, Wolfgang.
See you later.
Not a big pot, but he needed a win. And look at the smile come back on his face.
Little did I know I had the best hand the whole time. But we're taking in that $1,600 pot. All right, the $100 straddle is on. Pizza Tony raises it up to $300 with king 10 suited. Michael puts in the call. Jackie puts in the call as well. Look at all these hands. Everyone has spades. Dream spot for me when I look down at pocket kings.
Big time to get kings when you already have a button.
Yeah.
I have dreams of Vegas and the Mirage. Little do I know I'm already in Vegas here, so we're going to bump it up here, go a little bit north. We're at opposition to almost everybody here except for Jackie. We're in a great spot here. If anyone puts in the call, it's going to be pretty hard for 3 spades to peel off. Usually want to go for a 3x sizing for a raise. That would mean $900. However, there's 2 other players and I'm out of position, so I want to add $300 for each one of those. So that makes it $1,200, $1,500. I could go even as large as $1,800 and try to get maximum value here given the fact I'm out of position. But I decide on a sizing of $1,550 and the action's on Tony. Tony checks his cards and reaches over to toss in a 1K chip, but then finds the fold. King 10 suited down in the muck. Would have loved to see a call in that spot. That's probably going to clear out the rest of these garbage hands. 6-4 suited and Jack 8 suited hit the muck. We're taking down $1,000 there, and I can't complain about that. That leads me into the last hand of the night, where I go from one premium to the next. Kings to 7 deuce offsuit from the cutoff.
We got the bounty hand from Wolfgang.
Almost as good as kings or aces, because if I take this down, I'm taking down an additional $200 to $300 per person. Action folds around to me and the cutoff, the $100 straddle is on. I decide to raise it up to $300. Pizza Tony puts in the call with his pocket 3s. Michael decides not to come in for a raise with pocket nueves here. And Jackie is also going to call out of the straddle with his 10-6 off, leading us off to a flop which comes Queen Jack 4 with 2 clubs. Very dynamic board. A lot of things connect here. 10-9, King 10, Ace King, pocket 4s, maybe a hand like Jack 10, Queen Jack. You get the picture. A lot of hands to be scared of. I have 7 deuce, so that means I got to go for a bet. Look at these hands, though. I don't think anyone can call. I definitely didn't expect everyone to fold just to one bet, but I'm telling the story here that I have a strong hand like Queen Jack, Queens, Jacks, maybe even a hand like Ace Queen, and I decided to bet out for $400.
Really hard for all the pocket pairs to... He takes it down. 7 deuce. Bounty. Let's go. $200 per person, $300 to the last person who folded.
Jackie got it. He's really good. Yeah.
Nice play.
What a wet board to win.
It was.
After collecting my bounty from everyone at the table, the stream is over. I end up with 15.4K at the end of the stream, but we play for another hour after the stream. Let's bring it to the outro to see how I did. All right, you guys, that wraps up day 1 here in Vegas. Literally 30 minutes after landing in Vegas from my flight from Michigan to Chicago, Chicago to Vegas. 30 minutes after that, I was straight on the table playing $25.50, $100 straddle. Pretty crazy. I was in for $14,810. The random number is because I had some extra chips left in my bag from the last trip out here. So yeah, that's what I was in for. Ended up cashing out for a profit of $440. My worst, I think I was stuck like $4,000, and then I went up like $2,000 late, but then we played this stupid game where like everyone puts in like $200 or $300. You go to a flop, and then this was off stream by the way, and then you go to a flop and you can match the pot or fold. There's 1,000 in the middle. I had Ace King and an Ace 6 board. I put the 1,000 in. Some other guy puts 1,000 in. Of course he has a 6. So we ended up losing $1,000 there, but we profited $440. That's pretty cool. Straight to the bank, whatever, pays for the flight. Tomorrow is the Celebrity Poker Tournament with a lot of TikTok people, some NFL and NBA stars. So if you guys want to see that, that is a 50K guaranteed tournament. It's a free entry for your boy Wolfgang here, and that'll be the next video. So subscribe if you guys are new. Good luck on the felts, you guys. I hope you run better than I did tonight. I broke even pretty much. And I'll catch you in that next video from the tournament at the Aria Poker Go Studio. It's going to be live on my YouTube channel. Let's freaking go, you guys. Bang.